I looked the man in the eye. I found it to be very straightforward and trustworthy. We had a very good dialogue. I was able to get a sense of his soul. He's a man deeply committed to his country and the best interests of his country. And I appreciated so very much the frank dialogue.
Welcome back to Morning Joe. It is Friday, July 7th. With us, we have senior political analyst for NBC News and MSNBC, Mark Halperin.
He looked into my soul.
Yes? What did he find?
I found appeasement.
Very dark.
You did?
He said he saw sort of the outline of Neville Chamberlain.
Oh, really?
Appeasement and a bologna sandwich.
Oh, that too.
Those are the two things.
At least he found it.
Yeah, exactly.
Former FBI special agent and MSNBC contributor Clint Watts joins us. President of the Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haass. Columnist and associate editor for the Washington Post, David Ignatius. And join the conversation, Dean of the School of International Studies at the University of Denver, who's held numerous ambassador posts, including Iraq, South Korea, and Poland. Christopher Hill joins us this morning.
We've got a lot of smart people on the set, Mika. I want to go to smart. Let's go to smart person number one, not in any particular order. David Ignatius, you have George W. Bush making that mistake in 2001, a mistake that he recognized soon after. Barack Obama whispering in 2012, hey, after I win, I'll have a little more space to be able to work with Russia. It seems like Putin has been playing our presidents for quite some time and would invade a country in each administration's 8 years. So how do we avoid making the mistake the third time?
Joe, underrating Putin, both his capacity for mischief and also his ability to play a weak hand effectively has been, I think, a consistent problem for U.S. diplomacy through now 3 administrations. When you look at Putin, you see this immense need to be taken seriously. In a weird way, he's almost an analog to Donald Trump. He's a tough, brash, bullying person, but he's also pretty insecure. And I think what Putin most wants out of this summit, we've been talking about what Trump wants, what Putin wants is to be recognized as a world leader. This Russian sense of dispossession and loss after the end of the Cold War, that's always been there. I think in some ways, speaking to that without sacrificing U.S. interests probably would be useful over the long run, getting Russia inside the tent, facing outward, as we like to say. But I think that's part of the mystery of this meeting today is how Trump will try to do that.
It's very interesting you drew a line between Putin and Trump and their insecurities, because one diplomat told me that the leader of their country actually looked at the two the same, of this European country, as far as you win them over with flattery and basically say, how do you manage carrying all the problems of the world on your shoulders? Richard Haass, why do we keep making the same mistake with Vladimir Putin, and what does the Trump administration need to do?
Not just with Putin, you go back to FDR and Stalin. You had the same view that he could work with Uncle Joe.
Right.
I think there's always this American sense that you can personalize diplomacy and sometimes make it happen. There's a romance about Russia. I think the key to Putin, though, is he does not want to make Russia great again. That would require real political and economic reform. He can't allow that. He wants to make Russia seen as a great power again. Very, very different. He wants respect. He wants standing. We can give it to him, but conditionally, and that's the real question. We should treat him with respect, but we should make it clear that in order to get what he wants, he needs to play by certain rules in the Middle East, in Europe, in cyberspace.
I'm not clear exactly on what President Trump's goals are for this country. I know his brand is Make America Great Again. That's not what I'm seeing. The Wall Street Journal's editorial board writes about Putin's assist for North Korea. President Trump meets with Vladimir Putin on Friday, and the Russian strongman sent his early regards on Thursday by nixing a U.S. resolution at the UN Security Council condemning North Korea's latest missile launch. The resolution didn't stipulate any action, but our friends, the Russians, still objected. The Kremlin excuse is that the draft U.S. statement referred to the rocket as an intercontinental ballistic missile. Never mind that North Korea claims the missile was the equivalent of an ICBM, and the U.S. and other analysis of the trajectory and altitude suggests the same. The likelier explanation is that Mr. Putin wanted to send a message that he can make trouble if Mr. Trump resists a reset in U.S.-Russia ties.
Mr. Ambassador, Chris Hill, isn't that likely what Russia was doing earlier this week, just sending a message knowing that this meeting was coming up?
I suspect so, although I think every great power follows its own interests. I think in Russia's case, they also look for ways to just be difficult with us. I think spite is a big element in their foreign policy. I mean, they have no reason to have any kind of different view on North Korea than we do. But it is instructive that Russia and China are getting behind this idea that if North Korea freezes its nuclear tests, the U.S. should freeze its military alliance, its exercises with the South Koreans. This is a strategy basically aimed at kind of weakening the U.S.-South Korean relationship and weakening the military alliance there, reducing it to something more on paper than in the field, and in so doing, I think, in effort to kind of decouple the U.S. from South Korea. So there's a longer-term goal here, and alas, I think Russia and North Korea share that goal.
So, Clint, the president himself acknowledged in April that the relationship between the United States and Russia, in his term, is at an all-time low. Rex Tillerson reiterated that last month. You've got North Korea, you've got Syria, and then there's this elephant in the room of Russia's meddling in our election. It's kind of incredible, as we sit here today, that we're even debating whether or not a president of the United States would raise that, not for his own sake, but raise it for the sake of the country he represents, that another foreign power was interfering and trying to change the outcome of an election. Can he walk out of this meeting in a couple of hours without having said something about meddling?
You know, Richard and I were talking at the break, and he has to do something or create the perception that he did something. Right. There's no one in the room holding him accountable. He can say whatever he wants, or he can come out and say that he said, oh, I talked to Mr. Putin about cybersecurity. We're going to work together on this, which is a pass. The problem with this is, as we just saw, there are hackers in nuclear power plants inside the United States. They are attributing it to Russia again. Until a force is met against their force, Russia will continue to move forward in cyberspace. And there's been no plan with what we want Russia to do in cyberspace or what we will do as a counter. And until that happens, Putin, he sees this as an open door into America. He can meddle. He can actually disable our electrical grids if he wanted to. And we have put forth no response to that. If I were Putin, I would do the same thing. I would continue to push forward.
Mark? Richard, people talk about this in terms of the symbolism and this question of confronting Putin. Is it in America's interest for this to be seen as a friendly meeting or as a confrontational meeting?
The short answer is both. Our goal is not to isolate Russia. They can be a real spoiler in North Korea, Syria, Ukraine. On the other hand, we shouldn't assume that they're a partner. So this is this has got to be a multi-personality relationship. And what we've got to do is say, we respect you. Russia has a great tradition, but, and it's a big but, here are the terms. Here are the rules, that we're prepared to work with you on. So it's got to be a conditional relationship, and that's the trick, is to get that balance right between pushing back, because Putin respects it. He's tactical. He's not strategic. He's looking for openings.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.